Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I will be waiting for you guys to pick up the notification and find out that I'm already live, and then we'll start this conversation. We are going to talk about Empowerment Wednesdays, and our topic for tonight is all about avoiding miscommunication. And again, I will be waiting for you to pick up the notification, and then we'll start the conversation. Hello, hello. Good evening. Okay. I'm not sure if people can actually see the notification, but I don't see it on my phone. So maybe. So randomly, I'm not sure. I'm not really sure what's going on with Facebook. Anyway, good evening, and thank you so much for for being there. I'm not sure who you are, so you can drop a comment on the comment section so that I will find out who you are, and we'll start this conversation. Once again, welcome back to Empowerment Wednesdays. It's all about avoiding miscommunication, because apparently, even though we have the same language, we still misunderstand each other, and it all boils down to really how we communicate. It's not really about the language that we use; it's actually how we use the language. So tonight, it's all about that. But before that, I'd like to greet everyone. Good evening, and of course, I'd also like to greet the ones who are watching via replay. Thank you so much for watching, even though the live session is already done. Thank you for supporting all the previous episodes. And to those who are watching live, good evening. Thank you so much for tuning in. And whatever time zone you're in, please just bear with me for the next couple of minutes. So you can also post where you're watching from so that I will know. It's really fun, finding out where you're watching from. So anyway, my name is Irene. I'm a real estate broker in the Philippines. I'm also a motivational speaker and a writer. And I do this every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, the podcast episodes. And if just in case I'm not live, I still have like YouTube videos being posted at 8 p.m. So you will never miss out on any of the podcast episodes that we've had previously. You can definitely visit my YouTube channel, or you can also visit my Facebook page and find out the previous podcast episodes that we've already done. So also, if you have any recommended topics, don't feel ashamed. Don't hesitate pala. Don't hesitate. I'm so sorry. Sobrang drained na talaga ako. I've been studying the entire day. Oh my gosh. So anyway, again, the topic for tonight is miscommunication. If you can relate, join the conversation. Kung may tanong po kayo, do not hesitate to ask. Ang maganda kasi sa mga live podcasts or live video casts is we're live. Like, you can directly interact with me through the comment section. So just post them there. Kung may tanong kayo, kung may gusto kayong i-share, may mga experiences kayo na gusto din ninyong i-share, ayan, libre naman mag-comment dyan. Okay. So our topic for tonight is all about miscommunication. Why do we have miscommunication? So, simulan muna natin sa definition ng miscommunication. Obviously, one of the struggles in communicating with other people is when we are not understood. So, isa sa mga challenges in communication is miscommunication, isa din yun, lack of communication or no communication. Yun yung mga problema along communication. But tonight, we are going to talk about miscommunication. So what does it mean? According to Oxford Dictionary, it's a failure to make information or your ideas and feelings clear to somebody or to understand what somebody says to you. So yun yung ibig sabihin ng miscommunication. Hindi talaga nagkaintindihan. Okay? Kaya, kumaga, iba yung sinabi mo, iba yung naintindihan. So yun yung miscommunication. Hello, Sir June. Wow, ang ganda naman. Hindi ko alam kung ano ibig sabihin ng milestone follower. Ibig sabihin po yata, no, mulat sa poll. Follower po kayo. Thank you so much po, Sir June. Okay, so yun yung ibig sabihin ng miscommunication. Nag-usap kayo pero hindi kayo nagkaintindihan. Is it common? Obviously, it's common. Like every day, we tend to miscommunicate. Like yesterday, I was just talking to a service provider, and she told me that there was a miscommunication between her and another client. So I was at the receiving end of the miscommunication. Ako yung nag-suffer nung disadvantage. So, does it happen? I'm usually forgiving about miscommunication, basically because it's very common. It's a common problem along communication, but also ang hindi lang kasi maganda sa miscommunication is of course yung side effect niya, kumbaga yung impact niya sa atin. Kasi okay lang naman na hindi kayo nagkakaintindihan, pero kung madalas hindi kayo nagkakaintindihan, the frequency of miscommunication, or kung merong detrimental na nangyari. Alam mo yun, parang okay lang naman sana kung hindi kayo nagkaintindihan, kaya lang yung naging impact nun is medyo malaki or major yung naging impact niya. Mahirap yon. So that's why we have to address miscommunication. Hi, Mabes! Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay. So again, our topic for tonight is miscommunication. So what are the causes of miscommunication? Una is difference in communication styles. And obviously, we communicate in different ways. Some people are more efficient some people prefer talking. Some people prefer texting. Some people prefer sending an email. Diba? Iba-iba yung style natin in communicating with different people. Ako personally, I like talking to people. Pero if it's not really urgent, it's okay for me to send a message. So it also depends on my goal. It also depends on the message that I'm sending. So nag-iiba-iba din, syempre, yung pakikipag-communicate ko. Next is passive aggression. Kumbaga, ano bang tawag nito sa Tagalog? Yung parang nagagalit ka pero hindi mo naman balak iparamdam na nagagalit ka, parang ganon. Pero naiinis ka, ganyan. So, meron kang indirect way of expressing yourself. You know, hindi direkta yung pagsabi mo na naiinis ka, pero naiinis ka. You're expressing something that's negative towards the other person. So, nagkakaroon ng miscommunication. Isa din sa napapansin ko, like in modern times, naging uso yung sarcasm, yung parang, pwede ba pumunta sa bahay ninyo? Tapos ang sagot mo, hindi pwedeng pumunta sa bahay namin, wala naman akong sakit, bakit ka dadalaw? Parang gano'n. So, it has become a usual conversation. It has become part of the usual conversation na merong mga sarcasm. So, hindi siya nakakatulong. Kasi syempre, if sarcastic yung sagot sa atin, ayaw na nating makipag-usap. So, nagkakaroon ng miscommunication. Hello, Sir Errol Aquino. Good evening po. Thank you, sir, for tuning in. Okay. So, next is the lack of leadership. And there's what we call as personal leadership. Kumbaga, you are the ones leading yourself and you are accountable for yourself, for your actions, for your words, etc. However, without personal leadership, ang nangyayari is we don't take accountability for the words that we're saying or for the things that we want to say. So, nagkakaroon ng miscommunication kasi parang hinahayaan na lang natin yung conversations na parang, hayaan mo na lang, it's not directly affecting me, so bahala na silang umintindi, parang ganon. Which is not a good thing to do because obviously we communicate because we need to send a message across. And if people do not understand us, dapat meron tayong responsibility to make sure that they understood what we are saying. Diba? Kasi madalas, hi Lenny, thank you so much for tuning in. Ay, siya nga pala, thank you so much. Thank you so much dito sa mask. Ayan, nandito siya sa ko. Ayan, gusto kong i-plug kasi sobrang ganda nito, promise. Ayan, si Lenny nagbigay. Actually, pinost ko to kanina sa page. Ay, ayan, ang ganda oh. Thank you so much for this. O, di ba? Ang ganda. From Amen. I think that's how it's pronounced. Ang ganda. I love it. Ayan. So, thank you Lenny for my mask, and of course, patronize nyo to. Ang ganda ng naka-post naman sa wall ko kung saang product to, saan pwede mag-avail. Ayan. Libre plugging. Okay. So, it's the billionaire mask ba to? Oo nga, ang ganda. Oh. So, the name of this mask is Billionaire Mask. Ayan, ang ganda. Ang dami niyang decoration. I love it. Bagay sa sobrang minimalist self ko. Di ba? Okay. So, yun nga. So, when we are communicating with people, ang nangyayari sa atin is parang hinahayaan na lang natin sila na bahala na sila kung hindi nila tayo maintindihan. Pero hindi dapat ganon. When we are communicating, we should make sure that people understand us when we are saying something. Because the point of communicating is to get your message across. And if your message does not get across, what's the purpose of communication? So, yun. Yeah, that's called the billionaire with the 24K heart of gold. Ako ba yun? Dapat i-claim ko na yan. The billionaire with the 24K heart of gold. Pero ang ganda talaga niya. Hindi ko lang alam kung saan banda yung heart of gold. Pero talaga siya. Mukha talaga siyang yayamanin. Thank you, Lenny. Okay. So here, as I've mentioned earlier, so there are several causes of miscommunication. Some I probably haven't mentioned at all. Pero ang daming dahilan kung bakit nagkakaroon ng miscommunication. Pero if you think about it this way, simple lang naman yan eh. Kaya tayo nagkakaroon ng miscommunication kasi, in short, hindi talaga tayo nagkakaintindihan. Yun lang. Hindi tayo nagkakaintindihan. At for so many, whatever the reasons are, ang pinaka-point dito is dapat pag nag-communicate ka, you are understood. Right? Hi Mark! Shoutouts to Mark Deco for all your design needs. Ayan. Mga interior design, si Mark Deco. Ayan, constant follower natin yan eh. Nakatuwa talaga yung milestone follower. Hindi ko alam kung anong meaning nun. Does that mean na parang from the very start of the page, kasama kayo sa nag-like? So, thank you. Thank you for the milestone followers. Okay. So, what are the strategies to avoid miscommunication? Obviously, there are so many communication skills training. I do a lot of communication skills training. But this is just an overview of what are the things that we can do to avoid miscommunication. Okay, so the first one is for both of you to use the same language. And when we say to use the same language, it doesn't necessarily mean na literal na language, but if someone's talking to you in English, then you answer in English. Somebody talks to you in Tagalog, then you talk to that person in Tagalog. But the thing is, there's also what we call as technical language. So if I'm a broker and I'm talking to another broker, we can use our own jargons. That's okay. We will understand each other because we use the same language. However, for example, if I'm talking to, let's say I'm a broker and I'm talking to an engineer and I use my jargons, yung mga technical words ng real estate broker, tapos sasabihin ko siya sa isang engineer, we would not understand each other. It would beat the purpose of communicating. So, parang ganun din. For engineers, for example, if you talk to if I'm talking to a civil engineer, gumamit siya ng technical words sa akin, hindi kami magkakaintindihan. So, basically, the point here is, the first strategy is to use the same language. A language that both of you understand. Okay, it doesn't matter what dialect it is or what language it is, for as long as nagkaintindihan kayo. The thing is, we have become so obsessed with using English that we are so critical about each other when we are like committing grammatical errors and stuff like that. But the point here is that you are not supposed to use a language that you will not be able to communicate well. Okay? So kung for example, nahirapan ka mag-communicate in English and both of you naman can speak in Filipino or in your local dialect, why not? Use it. Okay lang naman yun. Again, the purpose of communication is to understand and to be understood. And if you will be able to understand each other using that language, then use that language. Huwag natin pahirapan yung sarili natin. When we are communicating, by the way, we have to remember that we don't need to impress people, because the goal of communication is to be able to understand each other, not to impress people with the way that we talk. Next is also to avoid distractions. Maraming distractions. In fact, we talk about this as noise. Ano ba yun? Kanina pa makati yung braso ko. Kita-kita sa camera, nag-ano ako ng braso ko. I think it's my hair. Okay. So, avoid distraction. So, in communication, we have what we call as noise. And noise is not only about yung literal na noise, literal na maingay. But noise is also about the distractions around us when we're communicating. For example, if you are talking to another person, tapos maingay yung paligid, 'di ba, nakaka-distract. Or if you are talking to another person, tapos malayo siya, no, your distance, let's say, is a few meters away from each other, mahirap marinig. Isa pa, nag-uusap tayo kapag may mask, 'di ba? Ang hirap magkarinigan. So these are some of the distractions that we encounter when we are communicating. And if we can avoid these distractions as much as we can, we should, para mas magkaintindihan tayo. Also, I'd like to greet those who just came in. Our topic for tonight po is all about avoiding miscommunication. So if you have anything to share or if you have questions, you can also post them in the comment section below. Thank you. Okay. Next is avoid excessive information, or what we call as information overload. This is common, lalo na ngayon, everyone's on Zoom meetings, everyone's like watching, kagaya nito, parang everything is digital, and all the things that we are watching, or all the things that we are reading, basically everything around us right now, especially with all the online things going on, parang there's just a lot of information every single day. So when we're communicating, as much as possible, kumbaga, let's do our best to make it bullet points. Points in such a way that the other person will understand what we're talking about easily. Kasi yun nga yung point, diba? Magko-communicate ka para magkaintindihan kayo. So, it's important that you have to, you have to simplify what you're supposed to say. Walang paligoy-ligoy, but put it in a nice way, use the right words, ganyan, say it politely, but walang paligoy-ligoy. I mentioned this before in a previous podcast episode, and I'll say it again. Say what you mean what you say. It's one of my basic rules in communication, so that it's easier to be understood. Hello Sir Joseph. Medyo late ka ngayon ng konti, pero okay lang, gets ko. Sa ano to, 'di ba? Sa signal mo to. Okay. Next is asking. Ask what you're not sure about. Ask. Walang masama magtanong. Okay, wag tayong mahihiyang magtanong kapag hindi natin naiintindihan, or kapag may hindi talaga, kumbaga hindi natin mapagtugma kung nasan na tayo sa conversation. Ask. It's never wrong to ask people. But obviously, we have to ask in a way na hindi incriminating sa atin. Kasi 'di ba, may mga questions na, okay, sorry for the word, yung may mga questions kasi parang nagmumukha tayong tanga. Hindi, seryoso to ha. Okay, real talk tayo dito. Alam niyo naman ako, real talk lang. I say what I mean and I mean what I say. Maraming mga questions na okay naman sanang itanong. Kaya lang may mga okay lang naman sana magtanong. Pero may mga questions na nang-i-incriminate tayo. Parang bumababa yung level ng intellect natin kasi mali yung pagkakatanong natin. Okay, ano yung mga example ng mga questions na nai-incriminate tayo? Ito yung isa sa mga jokes na nabasa ko last time. Sabi doon, may isa daw na, ano yung barker? Di ba yung sa jeep, yung nagtatawag ng pasahero? Sabi niya, kubaw, 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 kubaw. Tapos may isang lalaking nagtanong, Kuya, kubaw? So parang, ang nangyayari, yung questions natin, parang, ang nagiging impact is nagmumukha tayong tanga. And that's the reason why there are so many people who don't want to ask. But the key thing here is you have to ask the right questions para hindi nakakahiyang magtanong. And sometimes I'm very straightforward when I say, if I'm not sure about my question, if it would sound ignorant, I say it. I'm sorry for my ignorant question, but I'd like to find out if this one is that one, blah, blah, blah. I'll give you an example. There was a time when I attended a wine and cheese event. And it's a wine and cheese event. So it's a typical, you're going to get your wine, you're going to get your cheese, and then it's done, right? But the complicated version is that there's like 100 types of cheese. 100 types of cheese. Parang, oh, okay. So, how do I know which cheese ang dapat kong kunin? Kasi, well, I don't know a lot about cheese, right? It's not my interest. So, tinanong ko yung mga nagsiserve, sabi ko, this may sound ignorant. I'm not sure about my question, but this may sound like an ignorant question, but I'd like to ask, ano yung lasa ng ibang cheese? Yun yung tanong ko kasi obviously iba-ibang klase ng cheese, iba-iba siguro yung lasa, 'di ba? So I ask kung may bitterness ba yun? Or meron bang mapakla doon? Or whatever, 'di ba? Malay mo may cheese na matamis. I don't know. I would never know, right? So I asked that. And natawa sila. Sabi nila, yeah, that's okay. People ask about cheese all the time because there's a lot of cheese. Every region pala, iba-iba yung cheese na napoproduce. Parang ganon, depende sa temperature. So ko, oh, okay, that's interesting. So also, depende sa kung if it's coming from cows or if it's coming from carabaos yata, yan. So ganong klase na example ng questions. So it doesn't matter. If you want to ask questions, ask. Kasi hindi mo alam eh. Di ba yun naman yung point? Kaya ka nagtatanong kasi hindi mo alam. So, dapat hindi tayo nahihiyang magtanong. Okay, hello sir. Hello sir Yabut. Good evening po. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hello Ma'am Nita. Thank you so much for tuning in. You're right, ma'am. The importance of communication is the assurance of getting what you want to convey from the speaker and the receiver to understand the idea. Yes, that's true. Ayan, coming from Ma'am Nita, o, 'di ba? Coming from an educator. Ayan, she agrees. It's really heartwarming. Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Next is also get to know the person that you're talking to. This may not apply to strangers when you're talking to strangers. But if we are talking to like people around us, and around us meaning in the family, in the community that we belong to, or in the organization that we belong to, we have to get to know people, you know. Kasi minsan kaya nahihirapan tayo makipag-communicate is because we don't know the person and we don't know how to approach that person. Get to know the person. That's walang sikreto. Yun yung strategy. Walang sikreto doon. You have to get to know the person to be able to talk to that person in a way that he or she will like you. Hindi ko naman sinabing magustuhan kayo over the top, 'di ba? But ang point ko is magkaroon ka ng likability quotient, 'di ba? Kasi minsan kaya ayaw natin makipag-usap kasi feeling natin hindi tayo magugustuhan nung kakausapin natin or meron din tayong prejudice over the other person. So yun, get to know the person so that it will be easier for us to communicate versus talking to strangers. Sometimes the sixth sense or common sense really is nawawala sa atin because overload or too much na ang ating isip. Natatanga tayo minsan but really hindi nakakahiya magtanong. That's true. Yes, totally true. Meron talagang time, totoo yan, Ma'am Nita, I agree. May mga time na parang lutang ka lang. Kagaya kanina, lutang ako. Galing ako sa class, parang hindi ko na alam kung ano yung mga isasagot ko. So talagang lutang ako. So there are also moments like that. And again, sa ating mga audience, don't feel as if you have to be perfect all the time. Because really, nobody expects you to be perfect all the time. If people are expecting you to be perfect all the time, you're with the wrong people. Okay? I posted this on my a personal Facebook page that I have been criticized recently for some random reasons. But the thing is, we are not perfect. We are allowed to have mishaps. We're humans. So ganun din naman in terms of communication. When we are communicating, kapag mali yung tanong mo, edi magpasintabi ka na lang na mali yung tanong mo. It's never wrong to commit mistakes. That's what I'm saying when it comes to communication. Kung sa tingin mo mali yung tanong mo, tapos may na-offend ka, bawiin mo and mag-sorry ka. That's how easy communication should be. However, nagiging complicated lang kasi nagkakaroon tayo masyado ng over-analytical tendencies when we are communicating with other people. That's what complicates communication. But communication in itself, it shouldn't be a very complicated process. Okay, so next is, there's this thing called, one of the problems daw in communication is that most people listen not with the intent to understand, but with the intent to reply. I forgot who said it, but lagi daw tayong nakikinig, madalas. Kaya nagkakaroon tayo ng problem in communication is kasi nakikinig tayo para sumagot, hindi para umintindi. And it's very common, and I'm telling you this because it's very common. We don't have to feel guilty or feel sorry about it. Everybody feels that way, that you want to reply once somebody's talking to us. But the key thing about avoiding miscommunication is to just understand what's going on, and then eventually you can reply naman eh. Pero kasi lalong-lalo na, this one is very applicable. We listen so that we can retaliate, especially during arguments. Hindi dahil gusto nating maayos yung argument, pero gusto nating patunayan na tama tayo. And again, this is a very human factor. Don't feel bad about this. Everybody's guilty about this. Kaya lang, a healthy reminder, kung gusto nating magkaayos tayo or maging maayos yung relationship natin with another person, especially the people we are working with, or especially the people in our home, yung mga kapamilya natin, kailangan understand muna bago mag-reply. Okay? And again, marami na tayong strategies din na napag-usapan in the past, sa previous podcast episodes. Yun, check nyo din yun kung paano nga ba makipag-usap kahit na you don't agree with each other. I think the right way to disagree yata yung podcast episode na yun. So there's a right way to disagree. There are so many ways on how to disagree. Kaya lang ang nangyayari sa atin is naggagamit kasi natin yung wrong way to disagree. Kaya nagkakaroon ng mga conflicts. From Mamnita, just be you. Real friends accept who you are. Maski katanghan o kamalian mo, I-love ka nila. It's a character that speaks in you. That's true. Thank you, Mamnita, for that. That's very true. I totally agree with Mamnita. Kasi you don't have to apologize all the time for being you. If that's you, then that's you. You don't have to apologize for any katangahan, quote unquote, that you commit. Okay? You don't have to apologize for being you. Next is, lalong-lalo na ngayon, dahil malapit na mag-eleksyon, please, before communicating, check your facts. Okay? Mag-fact check muna tayo. It's not only about the election, but it's also every single day that we're communicating with people. When we are communicating, please make sure that we are stating facts so that we wouldn't have a problem. Lalo na sa workplace. Kasi yung mga sinasabi natin, may mga sinasabi tayo na akala natin fact, tapos hindi pala. Isang example, yung nangyari nung 2018 yata yun, yung nagkagulo kung may pasok o wala. Kumalat sa buong social media na wala daw pasok. Yung pala yung memong kumakalat ay iba yung year. Hindi pala 2018. Parang 2017 yata yung kumalat na memo. So, nagkagulo yung mga tao. So, that's what we mean by check your facts before communicating with another person. Kasi baka mamaya yung sinabi natin, hindi totoo, pinasa natin kay ganito, kay ganyan. So, naging rumor, naging chismis tuloy. Instead na katotohanan at pawang katotohanan lamang. Ang nangyari, nagkalat tayo ng chismis. Okay? So, wag ganun. Dapat alam natin kung ano yung totoong sinasabi natin. Another thing is when we are communicating with another person, we have to recap what has been discussed. Okay, so lalong-lalo na kapag nasa meeting tayo sa offices natin, sa companies natin, linawin natin kung nag-gets ba nating lahat yung mga sinabi natin. So that's why we have the minutes of the meeting to have a recap of what has been discussed. Also, take notes if we need to take note of anything during the conversation. Kahit na random conversations, if I like, kaya lagi akong may pen and paper, call me traditional or whatever you call it. So, talagang lagi akong may pen and paper kasi minsan, habang may kausap ako, hindi ko talaga napaprocess kung ano sinasabi. Sinusulat ko para magets ko. And this stems from the knowledge that I'm a visual learner. I learn visually. Most of the people that we know are visual learners. Ang taas ng percentage ng visual learners. So, if you are a visual learner, meaning mas naiintindihan mo pag nakikita mo or sinusulat mo, then you should always take note of, take down notes. You should always take down notes para hindi mo makalimutan kung ano yung pinag-uusapan. I remember when I was younger, siguro mga 20s ako, when I want to emphasize a point to a flame, to a boyfriend, sinusulat ko. Bago ko kausapin, if I want to confront, I would write it down first. Okay? So, ganun ko ino-organize yung thoughts ko para wala akong ma-miss out na point. At para hindi ako mawala doon sa topic. Kasi madali talaga ma-derail sa conversation. So, especially sa workplace, we really have to focus on the matter at hand. Huwag tayong madederail. Kasi pag na-derail tayo, mawawala na naman yung purpose ng communication natin. Okay. And of course, we should not assume. Okay? Sabi nga nating mga Pilipino, maraming namamatay sa maling akala. And that's also true in communication. That's always true in communication. We should never assume. If it's not said, it's not said. If it's said, it's said. We shouldn't assume that, halimbawa, sinabi ko, tapos ina-assume mo na may iba pang meaning. Dapat we should always take it at face value. Kung ano yung sinabi, yun yung dapat maintindihan natin. Kung hindi natin naintindihan, ask a question. Okay? So, yun yung sinasabi natin, don't assume. Mahirap mag-assume. Okay? Kaya maraming nasasaktan. Akala mo kayo, pero hindi naman pala kasi nag-assume ka lang. Di ba? Okay? So, next is, ito na yung last. And for me, this is one of the most important strategies in avoiding miscommunication. We should understand cultural differences, especially in the Philippines. Kasi sa Philippines, diba, we have 7,641 islands. And it's so easy to misunderstand people because we have so many cultures. We have a very diverse culture in the Philippines. Sa Philippines pa lang yon. How much more when we are talking to other nationalities, diba? So, we have to understand the differences in cultures. We don't really have to accept them, embrace them, but we have to understand that we are different. Okay, we have to understand and we have to accept that there are differences. Okay, we don't have to accept what they believe in, but we have to accept that there will be differences in the things that we believe in. And at the end of the day, ang pinaka-importante lang naman, especially we are talking about communication, ito lang yung pinaka-importante. You can forget about the strategies that I've mentioned kasi medyo marami yon. Pero at the end of the day, we just have to remember that when we are communicating with other people, it's all about respect. We don't have to understand if we really can't. Minsan mahirap talaga maintindihan eh. Ako minsan slow ako talaga. Like, minsan maiintindihan ko lang yung sinabi. Parang after 24 hours. O kaya may mga joke na hindi ko talaga magets. Tatawa ko after 24 hours. Ganun talaga. Hindi tayo perfect. No? May mga times na slow tayo. Lalong-lalo na kung marami tayong ginagawa, marami tayong iniisip. But, during the conversation, during the exchange in communication, I always do my best to respect. Kasi, for me, ito po, isi-share ko to sa inyo, ito talaga yung isa sa mga prinsipyo ko sa buhay. It's easier to respect people than to explain why you had to disrespect them. Sobrang mas madali na irespeto mo na lang yung mga tao kaysa magpapaliwanag ka kung bakit ka naging disrespectful. Right? And also, di ba, the golden rule nga, do unto others what you want others to do unto you. So, if you want people to respect you, mauna ka. If you want people to understand you, mauna ka. And also, yun nga, seek first to understand before you seek to be understood. Aside from it's biblical, it also makes a lot of sense. Diba? Seek first to understand before you seek to be understood. Kung gusto mong magkaroon ng maayos na communication, mauna kang umunawa. Lagi kang mauuna. Mauna ka magbigay ng respeto, mauna kang umunawa, lagi kang mauuna. So that you will also receive the same treatment in the long run. Or even during that conversation, di ba, minsan kahit hindi naman talaga kayo nagkakaintindihan, for as long as you respect each other, it's still a good conversation. So there. So hopefully I was able to share some strategies to avoid miscommunication. Lalong-lalo na po ngayon, di ba? May election, marami nag-unfriend, marami nagbo-block. So, okay, so wag nating sirain yung mga relationships natin just because we do not understand each other. Okay, so again, we don't have to understand everyone, but just in case na hindi natin sila maintindihan, we just have to respect each other's differences. Respect is key to good relationships. Okay, whether it's work relationship or a personal relationship, mga familial relationships, kahit anong relationship yan, it's one of the foundations is obviously communication and respect. So with that, thank you so much for for joining me tonight for another conversation. If you believe this podcast episode will also be able to help other people para somehow magkaroon din sila ng ideas on how to avoid miscommunication, please feel free to share the video. And if you have any recommended topic that you would like me to talk about, please send me a message. Actually, hindi ko alam kung anong nangyayari sa inbox ko kasi ang dami-dami talaga. Pero I'm doing my best to read all your messages to my official Facebook page and to my personal Facebook page. I'm doing my best din to respond, pero medyo matagal lang po talaga kasi I'm receiving a minimum of 20 messages in a day. Sa isang platform pa lang yun, so medyo mahirap mag-communicate for me. But if it's urgent, you can also send me a WhatsApp message or an SMS. Yan. Thank you, everyone. Nice eyeglass. Nice eyeglass. Oh, matagal na to Parang ilang months na to. Ilang beses ko na siyang sinuot sa podcast. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope we understand each other more and we respect each other more. And of course, let's just be kind to one another. Nothing beats kindness. It always goes a long way. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy, and God bless you all. Bye!